You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
CYTV
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. It's good to be with you this evening, whether you're joining us via the radio side of things, the TV, the podcast network, the live streams on X, YouTube, and Rumble. It's great to be with you, despite it being a very, very hectic day. So right around 2 p.m., everything jumped headlong into the fan. And, the number one question I think that hasn't been asked yet, but demands answering, is what does this Donald Trump, Elon Musk feud, what does this big, beautiful bill fallout, what does all of this mean to you? Because we can all talk about the social allure of two individuals of significant prominence in culture and society having a falling out. We've been doing that for a very, very long time. But what does this really mean? I've seen all of the takes out there about maybe why we should think certain things or we shouldn't think this, that, or the other. We're going to break down not only the events that took place today, that have been kind of brewing behind the scenes for the last couple of weeks. We're going to talk about what it means for you, your family, and most importantly, the political future of the country and how that impacts you. Because again, that's a pretty big heavy hitter given the current climate and state of things. So, on May 28th, Elon Musk announced he would be departing from the Department of Government Efficiency following the mandatory release of 100 days of service thereabouts to prevent issues with, number one, his position as CEO in multiple companies conflicting with a part of interest in receiving government contracts. Number two, the official limit as to whether or not an individual can serve in a certain capacity without congressional approval, mainly that being a Senate confirmation. On May 30th, as Elon Musk is leaving his position, the White House and President Trump invites Elon over to kind of a formal press conference announcement, and things are pretty okay. Again, Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency had done a lot to expose the waste, fraud, and abuse of the entire Democratic apparatus, which had been festering inside these executive agencies for the last several decades. So, for example, USAID and sending money to transgender comics in South America and atheism in Nepal and Sesame Street in Iraq and other kinds of insane spending. Elon Musk pointed that out and said these things should be cut. So then the Republican House and now over to the Senate, they bring forward this big, beautiful bill. And it's called the Big, Beautiful Bill because President Trump wanted as much crammed into this budget reconciliation as possible. Why do we need to cram so much stuff into one big, beautiful bill? Well, because right now the Republicans have a majority in the House. It's a very slim majority. And then over in the Senate, they do not have a majority that can reach cloture. That's a major problem because if you're going to pass some kinds of laws that change major aspects of how the federal government operates, for example, you need 60 votes as a minimum. So a way around this is through what's called reconciliation. If you just kind of fit some things in through a budget bill, you really only need the nuclear option in the Senate to pass it. So it is a major strain on the Congress of the United States and kind of the federal government as a whole to try to fit all of these things through, including a lot of Elon Musk's D.O.G.E cuts. So then the actual text of the bill comes out and all of these things that are stuffed into the big, beautiful bill. It turns out there's a lot of junk. There are some great things. There are some things that are pretty rough. Some of the things that are pretty rough gave a lot of special tax benefits to those who are in very blue states that crammed down a lot of the Biden 2019 spending levels down onto the post-2019 Biden spending levels from 20 and 21 onto the American people when a lot of people in the Republican Congress had run on getting things a lot lower, back to the pre-2019 spending levels. So there's a little bit of heartburn here because the Republican Party right now is a massive tent. The two Trump administrations have been built on this large coalition, which right now consists of the 90s labor union Democrat voters, especially from places like the Rust Belt. the union factory workers of Michigan, Northern Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, those are a large part of the Trump base. You also have kind of the techie libertarian crew, the free market absolutists, like the Elon Musk crew, which when he came on to the Trump campaign, endorsed the Trump administration. Then you have kind of the more crunchy, Make America Healthy Again moms that came on with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That weren't already over on the right. Then you have the traditional conservatives. Then you have the establishmentarians in the party, kind of the Bushians. And then you have the fiscal hawks, kind of your Tea Party Republicans. Now, I don't know if you know this, but that's really diverse for a party. That's a lot of very conflicting views. Now, they can all agree, perhaps all of the people in that group agree, transing the kids is wrong. Perhaps all of those people agree wide open borders is a terrible thing. Perhaps all of those people agree that we should not be allowing individuals to burn things down in the United States. But when it comes to the financial side of things, wildly different opinions. And Elon Musk had been pushing for a lot of spending cuts that just were not going to come in this particular bill because the Republican from New York does not want the same things as the Republican from Tennessee. And so on June 3rd, Elon Musk releases his first scathing tweet. He says, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." And they did ask Carolyn Levitt about this at a press conference later, and she said, look, everyone knows that Elon Musk is a free market absolutist kind of a guy. Everyone knows his opinion on this. It's not a big deal. So over the next day, Elon continues to air out his frustrations with the big, beautiful bill on X. And so far, to that point, there really hadn't been any measure of response from President Trump. So he's posting, memes like "Kill Bill," you can kill the big beautiful bill, and the lack of response continued until Elon on May 5th, that being today at 11:20 a.m., reposts or quote posts a Donald Trump 2013 tweet where Trump said, "I cannot believe the Republicans are extending the debt ceiling. I am a Republican and I am embarrassed." And Musk quote tweeted wise words. And the reason he quote tweeted wise words is because this particular bill necessitates the raising of the debt ceiling. It expands the national deficit considerably. Now Trump comes to the table and he responds. Here is the president.
So we've done a great job. Elon knew that. Elon endorsed me very strongly. He actually went up in campaign for me. I think I would have won. Susie would say I would have won Pennsylvania easily anyway, even if the governor ran, the real governor, not the governor from Minnesota, he's a sick puppy, that guy. That poor guy, I feel sorry for him. But they made a bad choice with him. But if you pick Shapiro or anybody else, I spoke to him recently about his house being set on fire, which was terrible. But if they picked him, I would have won Pennsylvania. I won it by a lot. But I'm very disappointed because Elon knew the inner workings of this bill better than almost anybody sitting here, better than you people. He knew everything about it. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden he had a problem, and he only developed the problem when he found out that we're going to have to cut the EV mandate because that's billions and billions of dollars, and it really is unfair. We want to have cars of all types. Electric, we want to have electric, but we want to have a gasoline, combustion. We want to have different. We want to have hybrids. We want to have we want to be able to sell everything.
So President Trump points out that his administration believes that Elon Musk started having problems with this bill that he had never had a problem with before after there was a plan to cut out this EV mandate. And Elon Musk refutes this. Disputes this, I should say. And he posted on X, false, this bill was never shown to me even once and was passed in the dead of night so fast that almost no one in Congress can read it. I'm not going to comment on whether or not Elon's statements in this particular instance are true or the president's particular statements on this are true. I've seen a lot of posts today talking about a couple of issues that people have with the president's statements about why Elon is aggravated about this particular bill or why Trump and Elon, what their takes are on here, when things were sent to who. Just there were a couple of disputes with this. Then an account called Autism Capital says, Trump speaks out on Elon coming out against the bill. He says, I would have won Pennsylvania regardless of Elon. I'm very disappointed with Elon. He knew this bill better than anyone, and he only developed a problem when he found out I would cut the EV mandate. Elon Musk's response is where things get really rough really quickly. Unfortunately, radio crew are out of time on that. Sorry, we'll catch you on the other side of the commercial break. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. So Musk responds, quote, without me, Trump would have lost the election. Democrats would control the House and the Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate. He then sends an additional tweet underneath that says, such ingratitude. And then everything just completely goes nuclear. And I'm going to be real. There were a lot of people in the administration, outside the administration, just in the general political circles that wondered if we were going to, in fact, see a moment like this. But now that that particular moment is here, where there's a spat out in the open like this, some of the takes that I have seen, and in fact, some of the pearl clutching from the right and from the left, like, oh, the lack of decorum, oh, goodness, heavens to Betsy, how could we, in public, like, criticizing Musk and Trump for hashing it out here in the open at this point. Now, there are other tweets in a bit that we're going to get to, but in this particular instance, up to this point, you guys should know that America has in fact been built on kind of a lack of posh decorum when it comes to public speaking and public arguments in its administrations. And up until now, again, public facing front kind of disagreements have more been a hallstone, a hallmark, I should say, a cornerstone of the American political system. It was President John Adams who, when talking about Alexander Hamilton, the most integral member of the financial part of the Adams administration, called Alexander Hamilton the bastard son of an immigrant whore. In a public newspaper, by the way. And Hamilton did not take that sitting down. In the 1850s, there were open cane fights on the floor of the House and the Senate. And boy, oh howdy, if you want to hear the saltiest sailor mouth I've ever heard on a campaign trail, listen to some of the old Nancy Reagan tapes. Whoo, boy. So up until this point, again, things get a little bit hairier after here and some major accusations start getting thrown around. Up until this point, so far, as far as like a lack of decorum and polish and airing these things out in the open, airing things out in the open does not bother the majority of the American people. They're usually tired of hearing, some things in the back room, the sausage getting made, that bothers people. So Trump responds over on Truth Social finally. Elon also posts a poll who says, is it time to create a new political party in America that actually represents the 80% in the middle? Rest in peace, Libertarian Party, who must have read this and just wept sadly in the corner. It turns out that holding conventions as to whether or not there should be an age of consent or driver's licenses of any kind is why Elon Musk is not now going, maybe we need the Libertarian Party. Yeah. No. Just rest in peace. The saddest bunch of clowns that have ever formed their own party because, again, when you go into the absolutist territory on anything, you run into significant problems. So then Trump responds. He says, Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do, and he just went crazy. Additionally, Trump throws up another post. Says the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. Here we go. It is going to get wild from this point forward because now Trump has insinuated that, maybe we start cutting a couple of contracts. Maybe we, again, kind of move into some more retaliatory measures. We got to bring the radio crew back from commercial, so stick with us a second. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
The Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIPC.
Oh, we were going to move on to other news, but the Elon Musk Trump feud, it's not over. It gets worse. So for those who are on the radio commercial break, let me give you a very quick kind of a 10-second recap here. Elon Musk says that Trump would not have won without him. The Dems would have the House. Trump responds that Elon's wearing thin and taking away the EV mandate made Elon Musk crazy. And, from that point, Trump then goes to saying that the easiest way to save money in the budget would be cutting some of Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. He's always surprised that Biden didn't do it. And now we get into the fricassee. So Elon Musk responds, such an obvious lie, so sad, that has at this point, by the way, everyone just completely stopped in their working day. If you worked in media, I actually heard a couple of radio stations just stop dead in their tracks today. Do you know how much drama it takes to get a Fox News anchor, instead of saying, welcome back to Fox News, instead to just stuttering, going, oh my gosh, on air? Oh my. In fact, it took a lot for me not to grab the popcorn, but I did run over and shake producer Nick at his desk. I was not even on the clock yet, full on. I mean, it was insane. I was definitely not enjoying a round of Mario Kart World on the new Switch 2. I stopped everything, ran over and shook producer Nick, called producer Daniel, all but drove to Pennsylvania and slapped producer Lou, because we had to cover this right now. The poor Daily Signal team dealt with all of these messages from yours truly, consistently updating them on Musk and Trump starting to go at it. But here's the catch. Trump then backs away. Trump made his two statements, his two posts, and then Trump let Elon Musk run, and run he did, running his thumbs over on X, that is. Elon Musk then drops one of the largest accusations that I've heard in some time. He says, time to drop the really big bomb. Real Donald Trump, tagging Trump over on X, is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT. Oh boy. Now that is that's a move to go from I'm sorry, I just can't stand it anymore to time to drop the really big bomb. Trump is in the Epstein files. Boy, howdy. Now, from there, Musk also says, mark this post for the future. The truth will come out. Trump doesn't respond. Now, there have been, again, a lot of people out there offering immediate commentary that we knew that Donald Trump was in the Epstein files listed because he flew on a plane a number of times. There's a lot of extenuating circumstances. There's no evidence he went to the island. A lot of people started suggesting that this tweet was posted in a very detailed way to avoid libel or defamation lawsuits. I'm not going to comment on that right now because we're trying to bring you the what, the where, the why, and the how of this particular series of tweets and the back and forth before we get into any of the commentary. Elon Musk then takes a bit of a break for a couple of minutes. And I bet you're wondering, well, what about the rest of the country? What are the Republicans saying? What are the Democrats saying? For the first time in U.S. history, now the night is young. I must regret to inform you that we will likely have a lot of very stupid statements and clips over the next 12 hours from those on the left side of the aisle because they can't help themselves. It is coming. But so far, as of right now, the Democrats said kill the bill and release the Epstein files, which is a bold thing given that they are still carting Bill Clinton around. A bold statement to make. The rest of the Democrats, Chuck Schumer, Ilhan Omar, other various Democrat celebrities, have basically just been posting versions of popcorn pictures and emojis, which, to be fair, is the only good communication strategy that the Democrats have ever had in their entire lives. So for the first and the last time, congratulations. You have gone at least 6 hours without saying something unbelievably stupid. Now, they've said some really other stupid things about the travel ban, and don't worry, they're going to be roasted to high hell and back for those particular things. But last and not least, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, did respond. Excuse me. I don't have that one loaded up here, so you'll have to read it. This is a kind of a more recent one. This is at 4 p.m. He says, "I don't mind Elon turning against me, but he should have done so months ago. This is one of the greatest bills ever presented to Congress. It's a record cut in expenses, $1.6 trillion, and the biggest tax cut ever given. If this bill doesn't pass, there will be a 68% tax increase, and things will be far worse than that. I didn't create this mess. I'm just here to fix it. This puts our country on the path of greatness. Make America great again." Elon Musk shuffles forward and says, "In light of the president's statement about the cancellation of my government contracts, SpaceX will begin decommissioning its Dragon spacecraft immediately." So we're just going up the escalation station over here. Then Ian Miles Chong, a commentator from Malaysia, posts, "President versus Elon. Who wins? My money's on Elon." I absolutely despise this kind of engagement farming, by the way, just for the record. The engagement farming that came out of this today was just so, do you think that Elon is bad or that Trump is bad? Not great. Thank you for that. So wonderful that you posted those kinds of things. However, Ian did put, "Trump should be impeached and J.D. Vance should replace him." Musk quote tweets that and says, "Yes." Now, just going to bring this up just very briefly. This is the one point of commentary that I will deliver to this particular frame by Elon Musk. The things that Donald Trump currently wants in the bill are rather protectionist and do involve an amount of spending on government programs that right now Vice President Vance has expressed significant support for. So replacing Trump with Vance at the moment would very likely not change the content of the big, beautiful bill to a more fiscally responsible means. Now, Musk did kind of go back to retweeting a couple of things and amping up a couple of things. I will mention this before we move away to the what does this mean for you? Because this is the most immediate reaction, what this meant to a lot of Americans. In the last 5 days, since Elon Musk has started criticizing the big, beautiful bill and essentially suggesting there are significant issues between he and the Trump administration, Tesla has dropped, again, over 5 days, a total of 70 points, about 20%, 19.9% of its stock value. So when you air things out in public and you do go toe-to-toe with an administration, and there might be some economic instabilities that are going to come out of this, maybe government contracts canceled, yeah, I mean, that's in fact going to cause some negative outlines there. We're going to talk very briefly talk very briefly about some of the impacts this is going to have on the Americans over on the live stream. And then we'll head over to Jerry Lopez for some awful tweets, because if you think that over the last week, the Democrats have behaved themselves, whoo boy howdy, you guys showed us that that's not the case. We got a lot of submissions in this week. We'll get to those. Radio crew, catch you in a minute. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. So what does this mean for you? In all seriousness, what does this actually mean for you, the American? Regardless of the intensity of, again, two gentlemen with quite a big social presence and quite a list of accomplishments, both Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and the egos that come with them. By the way, saying that Elon Musk and Trump both have egos is not an insult. That's just the truth. Musk and Trump do, in fact, have sizable egos. And when you put those against each other, you're going to have fireworks. Now, I said at the very beginning of this administration that actually right after the election, because Trump had promised bringing a lot of these people in, you were going to see one of the most ideologically diverse cabinets in U.S. history, which is a lot better, and by the way, a lot more interesting than a racially diverse or a genderly diverse kind of cabinet. Because now we're going to see where the tech libertarians and the fiscal hawks and the traditional conservatives and kind of the labor populists really don't agree with each other. And you're going to see that come to terms in the biggest American interest that there is, which is the economy. Because that's what determines very close to every aspect of how we are going to drive and eat and work. And how all of those things intermingle with each other. So to see all of that come out now, especially at a time when, in fact, there is a sizable amount of national debt that is getting a lot and a lot and a lot more intense over, because 2035 is coming. Right now, entitlements and interest on the debt is 60% of the annual GDP. That's a problem. So what Elon Musk is criticizing in the big, beautiful bill in a public-facing way over the financial failures of this bill, those are valid. Those are absolutely valid. The spending that the United States is currently participating in is unconscionable. It's really not sustainable. And it is going to kneecap Americans in about 10 years. This is about the 10-year clock until we have to hit austerity measures and things get really rough. Now, on the other side of things, Trump's points are very valid, especially about the need for a pragmatic approach. He ran for election in a very big tent situation. He did. His polling of the swing states shows that Trump pulled a large number of 90s labor Democrat dudes, the last of them, in fact. They have different economic opinions on things like tariffs and protectionism than the free market hawks. They do. And so what you're looking at right now is a situation with the slim majority in the House and not a 60-vote majority in the Senate, where you have, Senator Hawley facing off versus Senator Ron Johnson, very different economic outlooks. Well, you got to get the bill through or the taxes go up automatically. So you are, in fact, between a rock and a hard place, which may be better than being between Iraq and a hard place under Bush, but, still. So what do? Well, you have to make compromises because the New York Republican and the Georgia Republican don't agree. Should they agree? Maybe. I mean, I would certainly love it if the right thought the same way that I do about things. I would love it if everyone out there was a traditional conservative who had the same views that I do on the economy and on foreign policy and on how we do. But that isn't the case. Just not. So you have to get something through. So wait a minute. Well, the pragmatist angle and the free market cuts need to happen angle, well, who's right? At the end of the day, what this means to you is that the big, beautiful bill is, in fact, going to get through. The biggest thing you should be taking away from this, at least in my humble opinion here, is that disagreement is not inherently a terrible thing. And that, yes, things are going to go on after this. That this will, in fact, be solved. We have to head over to the radio side to pick them up from commercial. I've rambled just a bit too long. It's the Tony Kinnett cast here on the Daily Signal.
Awful tweets, the ones that no one ever deletes. Awful tweets on the Tony Kinnett Show.
On 93 WIBC.
All right, the Democrats and a few Republicans have decided to make being ridiculously stupid on social media what's most important to them. And you guys have sent those in because the Lord knows that today, Jerry, just as a quick check here, were you able to spend all of your day keeping track of the stupid stuff everyone else was saying with the Elon Trump feud going on?
What? Today is a tweet Super Bowl, brother. I have no clue what's going on. I could not wait to hop on this segment with you. You spent the whole last segment talking about other tweets. Wow, what a day. And it's just getting started. What a day.
Well, let's dig into some of the worst social media posts in history. Because again, while all of this stuff was going on, everyone else was throwing in the extra stupid. So right off the top, Hillary Clinton saying, quote, Donald Trump doesn't care if you or someone you love bleeds to death in a parking lot. Make sure your senators do. And she's talking about how the Trump budget bill would harm women's health. Jerry, I don't know, first of all, if Hillary Clinton should be giving advice about avoiding bleeding to death in a parking lot, knowing her. What do you think?
I mean, listen, she is the queen on getting suicided, but I like to remind people of the city of Chicago, which will let your loved one bleed all the time if you leave them outside on the corner past 8 p.m. I think she mentions cuts to Medicare, and if nothing else, all it does is make able-bodied adults and takes off illegal immigrants. So if nothing says that we care more about your health than making sure that health is acceptable to you, I don't know what it is. But yeah, to your point, Hillary Clinton has no business talking about this.
No, and if Planned Parenthood goes out of business, womp freaking womp. All right, up on next here. This is from May, but again, given this was right after the Biden things, we weren't able to cover this particular one, but the USA Today is in a really rough streak, so we'll hit it here. Rex Hupke from USA Today wrote, "Is Trump in mental decline? He sounds far worse than Biden ever did."
I mean, you're not pulling my leg here. That's a real tweet or real article, Tony.
That is in fact a real article. And by the way, just as an excerpt here, Trump seems to know little, and he has grown increasingly incoherent and rambling, often wholly detached from reality. Dude, saying Trump is rambling worse than Biden, oh boy.
Yeah. That guy needs to be fired because he obviously just has no objectivity whatsoever. Like, how can you even compare the two? We're not talking policy. We're talking about mental aptitude. And there's no question that Joe Biden had absolutely zero.
Dude, I mean, what a take. What a take. Okay, so this would be from today. Because, I don't know, did you see Greta Thunberg? My dreams? That climate activist. She's sailing to Gaza and got about 30 miles off the coast. And we're like, hey, can we land? And the Israelis were like, no, because you're with individuals who are openly supporting Hamas. And so Greta cried about it. So Rashida Tlaib, noted definitely not in support of Hamas, tweets out, "These brave activists are putting their lives in danger to deliver food and humanitarian aid to starving Palestinians. The Israeli government must stand down, end the blockade, and stop using starvation as a weapon." What do you think?
Yeah, as a Cuban, and might I mention that we are assailing people. Not a good move by Greta here. Not a good move. Not a good move by Greta. That's like trying to sail to the United States, but it's covered by floating bombs or something. She needs to just listen. When white privilege takes you just a little too far, you end up with Greta Thunberg. She needs to sit down somewhere and just relax before she puts out. Did you see her put on? She put on her life the vest, talking about we had seen a drone up ahead. You're going into a war zone and it's embargoed. What are you doing, Greta? Her parents suck.
I do, in fact. I love that. But I will point out that Israel is currently the government that's distributing food directly to civilians. So that you have, again, we have video of Palestinian Gazans here that are running around thanking Israel on camera. And like they have the photos to prove they've been in Gaza a long time because Hamas steals all the food. But we have to move on, I'm unfortunately here. Well, ABC News, after the Colorado terror attack, we got sent this one a lot. It says, national crime data shows the Boulder attack came amid a dramatic increase in anti-Semitic and Islamophobic hate crimes across the nation. Jerry.
Yeah, I don't think there's been too many Islam, and I don't have a dog in the fight. The beauty of this is I will tell you how it is. I don't really care about what your opinion is. I don't think there's been too many Islamophobic things going on around the country. If nothing else, it's been 100% on the pro-Islam side, the river to the sea, the pro-Hamas, the tagging of monuments. And I'm not Jewish and I'm not Islamic. So I'm just telling you the anti-Semitic stuff has caused this, and the ABC is culpable in that argument as well.
I do think at some point that stockholders are going to be able to sue Disney for open malpractice that drives down stockholder and share prices. But that said, just as a quick aside here, I looked through the article and looked through the internet to find all of these supposed Islamophobic hate crimes. I found like none. None, really. There was one attack.
I can't think of any, dude.
There's one attack in southern Illinois, like a year, 2 years ago, that was determined not to be a hate crime. That's it. So excellent stuff.
It was Angel Reese or a Jussie Smollett, depending on your generation.
Moving on, Ken Delanian from NBC, again after the Colorado terrorist attack, said it's worth noting that flamethrowers. Again, this is a guy that took a garden kind of a weed sprayer, filled it full of what's likely a gasoline mixture, and then sprayed it on women and children. And said, this guy says, worth noting that flamethrowers are legal and commercially available for sale. Elon Musk's company even sold some several years ago. What?
I mean, that's kind of like saying cars are available to purchase online, so therefore they're responsible for every car accident. They just keep getting dumber and dumber, and I don't know how every person needs a publicist that just goes, don't write that, man.
Don't just stop.
What you're taking is so stupid. Just don't do that, please.
Well, we've got the one we've got up next may just be one of the tweets or the articles, I should say, of all time. This is from the National Review, which is supposed to be a kind of a right-leaning outlet. By the way, whom I've written for, by the way. I have a couple of articles in National Review. Harvey Milk was this San Francisco Democrat who was on the city council for a while. And this adult man was stupping a 16-year-old, so he's a pedophile. And the Democrats, because he's one of the first gay people ever to be in public office, they named a boat after him. So Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, gets into office and says, yeah, we're not having any boats named after pedos. No thanks. So they're going to change the name of the ship. So in defense, National Review writes, Harvey Milk was a patriot. Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, that's pretty disgusting that they would even, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. As a matter of fact, I tweeted today, anybody who was caught on the Epstein tapes abusing children deserves nothing less than the death penalty, in my opinion. I don't know how you come out and say somebody's a patriot. I mean, it's...
The thing about U.S. ships, and I want to make this incredibly clear, because there are a lot of people in this country who have served in the military, briefly or a long period of time, who are worthy of our respect. And even if they have committed certain crimes, maybe there are cases where we should be thankful for their service in general. Sure, I hear you. But you realize that we don't have like millions of boats. So you can just name the boats after the best examples of service.
We're not hurting for people to name boats after.
No, I mean anything's better than, again, naming it after a pedo. Just kind of hot takes here. This next one is from Anonymous, the anonymous Twitter account. Ooh, the hacker group. Strip all MAGA of U.S. citizenship and deport them to Russia, Israel, or India, where they belong. Jer, what do you think of that?
That's a bananas take, because make America great again is part of that, is what that means. So if you're going to send them where they belong, it's got to be a place you're trying to make great. Right? Like, come on, man. And what happened to the old school Anonymous that was just getting hackers and stuff like that? Now they got to give us their political takes? Shut up.
Yeah, Anonymous has unfortunately been that way for a very long time. All right, last but certainly not least here, it's Keith Olbermann. So this, this is going to be an awful one here. He says, Trump is to blame for the Boulder terror attack. If you were going to seize people off the streets, seize the dangerous threats, not women and kids who can't fight back against cowardly ICE Gestapo, this is on Trump. I had 2 strokes while reading this. I now can't feel the left side of my body. Please explain this one to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Keith Olbermann, who also looks like America's favorite old lesbian gym teacher. This
Rachel Maddow out of
complete. Yeah, I mean, he looks just like if Justin Bieber came out as trans tomorrow. Like, that's Keith Olbermann. It makes no sense. What about the Maryland man? That's not an innocent woman or child, or none of these arguments have really been over that. If you're here in the country illegally, and mind you, I am from a family of immigrants. I am as pro-immigration as it gets. If you're here illegally, you need to go back home. If you're here illegally, great. You better be on Team America. If you don't want to be Team America, go back to where you came from, dude. Why do we need all these liberal lefties out here? They're destroying America. They're destroying what the American dream is.
You make a couple of really good points. I don't know how many women and children I've run into that have MS-13 and the angel of death, tattooed on their knuckles and their backs and chests and things. In fact, that would be a wild conversation in and of itself. And now the preschool class of 2017, it's MS-13's crew. I'm not expecting that one, Jer. So
I mean, haven't these lefty celebrities ruined their own cities like L.A.? Why do they got to try to ruin the rest of the damn country? Leave us alone.
Well, yeah, I don't have an answer for that one. Jerry Lopez, awful tweets, always great. At Indy Spanglish over on X. Thanks for joining us, dude. We got to send the radio crew over to commercial.
See you next week.
We'll be back for the radio side in a second. We'll continue over on the live stream on YouTube/Daily Signal. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. There are other things, believe it or not. I too am shocked that have gone on in the wild world besides that. But before I show you that, there is one particular video that has not escaped, at least has not escaped my notice entirely. And this is a Democrat congresswoman who wanted to tell an entire crowd the reason that we desperately need illegal immigrants in this country. It's a little out there, I'll be honest with you.
Labor, and of course, we have have to come to a place in Congress where it is no longer a political issue, but we see it as an existential issue for the country. If we don't have avenues for people to come here legally to work or to build a home here, I'm going to be really crude right now. We're not going to have anybody around to wipe our asses because we don't have enough people.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so first we had there a bunch of crop pickers and house cleaners. Remember the Episcopalian minister who yelled at Trump and Vance, have mercy on the crop pickers and the hospital cleaners. Oh, and then we had, Jasmine Crockett again saying that Hispanic people needed to pick the cotton because the black people sure weren't going to do it. Those are her words. And again, dear God. So now we've elevated it, moving on up for the expected jobs for illegal immigrants. We now have butt wipers. I'm supposed to have some kind of a joke or analogy or some quick-witted thing to follow that up with. I don't. Because the Democrats already elected the joke to Congress. Good Lord. So again, even though there haven't yet, again, the night's still young, there have not been a ton of Democrats just yet saying very stupid things on X about the Trump and Musk feud. They've got enough stupid to last for a hot second here. Case in point here, we're getting ready to bring the radio crew back from commercial because now the show is discombobulated. It's out of order. It's chaos. Welcome. I do love watching the left lose their mind over the latest Trump travel ban. So again, to give you a bit of a recap, we have seen terror attacks from individuals who were allowed to come over and their visas expired and then nobody really did anything. We have seen a weird series of attacks from nations openly sending gang members and released prisoners to the country. We have seen a bioterrorism plot from foreign nationals into the country. And so the Trump administration released a list of a couple of countries that, as of right now, are not allowed to send people over to the country for love or money. And these include Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, the Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. Now, we're going to talk about a few of the countries that aren't on there a little bit afterward. But after we bring the radio crew back from commercial, Ilhan Omar's take on this is, well, it's something special. So we're going to bring that radio crew back in and chat about this a second. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
No, it's not fun. It's not fun living in the real world, Paramore. It's not. And case in point would be Ilhan Omar freaking out over the Trump administration's travel ban for individuals from Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, the Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. These are currently countries which regularly allow individuals who are very, 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 very unsavory access to international airports. These are also countries who do not give a lot of information about certain people to the United States via record keeping. So I've heard a lot of criticism already from individuals suggesting, well, why not Egypt? Why not Kuwait? After all, Egypt was the place that this individual from the Muslim Brotherhood who came over to the United States and attacked and firebombed the Jews and the pro-hostage crew over in Colorado. So, why not ban Egypt? Well, because Egypt actually does a pretty decent job of outlining the past criminal activity of individuals who are vetted to come over to the United States. So, you can have a big, long conversation about other countries that need to be added to this list. However, at the moment, the largest offenders are Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, the Republic of the Congo, again, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen. They keep no tabs on anyone in their countries at all. And given that one of those places is where the Houthis come from, yeah, that's kind of a big problem. So Ilhan Omar, who is from Somalia, decides to take this one right on the chin. I know, I'm shocked, you're shocked, nobody's shocked. She tweeted out, "This discriminatory policy is beyond shameful. Just like his first Muslim ban, this latest announcement flies in the face of basic morality and goes directly against our values. This racist policy will not make us safe. It will separate families and endanger lives. We cannot let this stand." So I can't help but notice that there's a lot of Muslim countries that aren't on that list for this to be a Muslim ban. But whenever it comes to being the Islamic victim, Ilhan Omar is like, me, pick me and my brother husband, please. So as far as Ilhan is concerned, I am not at all sorry that individuals from Somalia are no longer allowed to come over to the United States, given that you have openly told them you would be representing the country of Somalia in the United States Congress on camera to that crowd. Who knows what you've said behind closed doors. The only thing I do regret regarding Somalia is that we didn't stop allowing immigrants much, much, much sooner. So on that note, the other media goobers on the left-wing media and podcast sphere have also been losing it. Chris Cillizza decided that this is all some kind of incredible ruse or some kind of a magical distraction of evil or something.
Neither of these things neither of those decisions came about willy-nilly. Donald Trump ran in 2024 on a travel ban, right? He did this in his first term. It was very legal. There was a lot of legal back and forth. Eventually, on the third time they did the travel ban, they got it through with legal approval. He ran that he was going to make one bigger and tougher and all that. So this has been in the works. If you think, now Trump, when he announced it, said that this was at least in part response to the Egyptian national who is illegally in this country.
Okay, so what he has said so far is in fact true. The Trump administration has brought forward multiple instances over the first administration, then the campaign, now in this administration. They've said repeatedly that they're going to do this. And they started, again, this is a first point. There will be more countries added to the list, and there should be. They said that right now, again, the terms for this particular travel ban are countries who right now do not keep documentation on people living in their country and give them unfettered access to international airports. That's a problem. We can talk about it because he's about to go off on that Egypt isn't one of the countries listed. Well, correct. Egypt keeps a record of a number of people. Trump is saying this is a great moment to start this security policy because the attacks are getting worse and out of control. But I'll let Chris continue.
Who used a homemade blowtorch or flamethrower to attack a pro-Israel march in Boulder, Colorado recently. Here's the thing. Know what country is not on that 19-country list of either partial or full travel bans? Egypt.
Again, not a country. That was not a travel ban would not have prevented this individual from coming over to the United States in the fashion that he did. This was a major State Department error in the first administration and then an overstaying of a visa. This is a visa collection issue, not a travel ban issue.
So the idea that this is a response to that is not totally borne out. They had this in the can, right? They were waiting for a time to roll this out.
Okay, now that's a horrible thing to say. That's a disgusting thing to say. Like the Trump administration's waiting for a terror attack so they can impose a travel ban. How about no? And how about piss off? Disgusting. Well, Representative Judy Chu, whom is known for having about 3 brain cells to rub together on a good day, she decided to weigh in on the travel ban too, and it's just special.
Today, we are protesting Trump's bigoted travel ban, which targets many Muslim-majority countries. This is a distraction.
Notice she didn't say all majority Muslim countries. If you're going to discriminate against Muslims, why not get rid of all Muslim country travel permissions? I mean, if it's a Muslim, why allow other? I mean, it's kind of weird, right? A little strange. If this is a big discriminatory measure, wouldn't one say?
From the other problems that Trump is having, but what it does is cause terrible hardships to people from those countries.
Why does a travel ban that does not allow individuals to emigrate to the United States cause hardships for people in other countries? I thought that saying the United States was a great place people wanted to come to because it was better than other countries was a very mean nationalist thing to say. Oh, it turns out that other countries suck? No.
And it doesn't make us any safer.
Also untrue. It does make us safer because you know what unfriendly people are currently running around Yemen? The Houthis, whose motto is death to America, death to Israel, God is great. Now let's see, death to America. Is that a pro-United States phrase or an anti-United States phrase? You know, I think I figured it out.
So I have the No Ban Act, which would stop the president from being able to do such bans in the future. And
yeah, she has no ability to do that. You can't restrict an Article 2 authority of the president. We gotta let the radio crew go. We'll stick around for just a smidgen of bonus tonus. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first on 93 WIBC. Take care. All right, crew, let's talk just a bit about the off-the-record complaints, because again, there's like 80 other different scandals currently going on around the country. And while the Elon Musk-Donald Trump feud is certainly captivating, and it does bear a lot of impact for Americans in the future, it does not bear anywhere near as much impact as the current breakdown of the Democratic Party. And I do mean open breakdown. Right now, you have Democrats racing to shiv each other in the back. And the reason, and I've said this before, that you had a class of Democrats in the Bonnie Frank era that was all about stabbing their elders in the back and stepping forward as the young progressive Democrats, as opposed to the secretly racist Democrats that came before them a generation prior, or the openly racist ones. Shout out to Joe Biden. So then, following them, when it was now looks like their time to go, some of them have taken longer to expire than others. But Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, the rest, Chuck Schumer, the rest of the congressmen who have more wrinkles than constituents, it turns out that the crew they raised to be exactly like them, the millennials and the younger end of Generation X that is starting to come into the halls of power in Congress, it turns out they have the exact same values. And now those older Democrats are getting stabbed in the back. I know, wild. To think that Karine Jean-Pierre and Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson and a lot of people in the legacy media left, as well as the political election left, would not get the exact same A2 Brutus treatment that they once dispatched on the elders themselves. And so my latest and greatest favorite example is that, again, Jake Tapper of CNN, Alex Thompson of Axios are now going a little bit more on the scorched earth side because Karine Jean-Pierre, the former White House press secretary for Joe Biden, you remember the Al Capone lookalike who had to get every answer from a binder because she's retarded. Karine Jean-Pierre, Miss Historic. It turns out that everyone inside the Democrat Party also thought she was retarded. I know, I too am shocked that the woman who could not put a sentence together and whose entire qualifications to be press secretary was the color of her skin and her preferred genitals. That, whoa, you're telling me that she wasn't that intelligent or qualified for the position? She comes out and announces she's writing this big expose and book called Independent, all of this other nonsense. So Alex Thompson wastes no time at all this morning posting a thread on this new Axios story. Again, this Axios story is called Biden World Goes Scorched Earth on Karine Jean-Pierre. And what Thompson focuses on is a couple of individuals who, when he reached out for comments, said, yeah, I'll give you a comment if I'm allowed to do this off the record. So we're going to have a conversation here about journalism for a second that's going to hurt me more than it hurts you. So in the rules of journalism, in order to avoid charges of defamation and in order to get certain stories out, because people realize that if you speak with someone who's doing an investigative report, many of which I've done, that they might be held accountable and get really angry calls and other things about things they have said on the record. So when I show up and I say, hey, I'm writing a story on this, that, or the other, do you mind if I record our conversation? we're going on the record, then everything you say from that point forward, I can use in the story. The problem is that sometimes I ask questions that make people a little uncomfortable. Sometimes journalists in general ask questions that make people a little uncomfortable. The same questions that you ask that a lot of times the politicians and ancillaries don't want to answer. So they will say, okay, I'll tell you, but this has to be off the record. So that later on in the article, a lot of outlets, most of them on the left these days, can say, an anonymous source inside the administration told me Joe Biden was dead years ago. Now, here's the catch. Some of the people who gave Alex Thompson comments lied to him when they said things off the record. So, different officials said things like she didn't know how to manage a team, she being Karine Jean-Pierre, the hubris of thinking you can position yourself as an outsider when you've not only enjoyed the perks of extreme proximity to power, which bestows the name recognition needed to sell off books in your name, but have actively wielded it from the biggest pulpit there is as breathtaking as it is desperate. It is difficult to see how this is anything but a bizarre cash grab. So again, Thompson is just releasing all of these things. It's the left eating themselves from the inside out. Here's where it gets fun. So there is a Mediaite article that comes out suggesting that Alex Thompson burns a source over the Karine Jean-Pierre book deal. So essentially, Alex Thompson says that one New York-based publicist, Gilda Squire, who worked informally with Karine Jean-Pierre while she was in the White House on multiple occasions, copied on official emails before staffers raised the issue, a former official said. Again, a lot of this behind the scenes, off the record, another official said, oh, they wouldn't tell us who they were, so that, again, they don't have to get roasted by their own party. The Democrats are desperately trying to hold it together. There are too many leaks in the dam. This is going to get way worse. I know that right now, the Democrats are thrilled there can be a moment of distraction from a party that is literally falling apart at the seams. And I know that as a millennial, I say like and literally way too much. Sorry. But in this case, it is a party that is disintegrating. People are fleeing it in droves. So right now, what has been said is that this Gilda Squire person worked with Karine Jean-Pierre. Now, here's what Alex Thompson said. That's kind of funny. The White House repeatedly told me that it wasn't true that Gilda worked with Karine Jean-Pierre back when I asked about Gilda Squire's involvement back in February of 24. And immediately the claim was made that, well, Gilda said that off the record. How could you do that? Because then Alex Thompson posted receipts, which I approve of. I believe it or not, I want to make this clear. If you ever send me a story, I don't do a lot of investigative column work anymore, but if you send me comments, I immediately take a screenshot of them. If there is a call that I have made to a certain university, I have taken a screenshot of the phone call to the university. I know what the one party and third party recording laws are in every state that I did business with. Because I like to keep receipts. I'm a former science teacher, former science academic. I don't trust you to just take my word for it. I give you the receipts. That's why we try to shove as many articles and video clips into a show as possible. So you don't have to go, oh yeah, Tony said it, so everything's going to be good. No, you know that I have shown you the stuff, as evidenced by me sorting through this Mediaite and Axios article series. Here's the catch. It turns out that they have now upset Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson enough by this open lying bullcrap that Alex Thompson has now said, quote, if you don't tell the truth, off the record no longer applies. Here is Gilda Squire's denial at the time. This is unequivocally true, she says. And some of the left started immediately going after Alex for burning a source in case someone says something off, this is off the record. And now you say, no, it's on the record. I'm going to post it. The lefties get really upset about this. I have done this before, actually. There was a president of the Pendleton School Board, the South Madison School or Community School Corporation in Pendleton, Indiana, who told me off the record that the reason that the school board was going after a counselor for telling parents that they were not allowed to communicate if a child was changing their gender on like school records. The reason they were going after her was because they had a ton of lawsuits at the time and that, well, we have to do this because federal law states this, that, and the other. And he was lying. And so I burnt the source. Because if you lie to me, then you're not actually telling me something off the record. Sharing something with a journalist, a reporter, a columnist, anyone off the record means I don't want you to burn me with this true information. I'll give you the information because I think the information is important. If you give me false information, then how am I supposed to know that you were telling the truth about it being off the record? So again, infinitely entertaining to see the left disintegrating as well. That said, I think that's about it for this evening. Just a little bit of bonus tonus for you there. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap out the end of this week with, I don't know, prayer, coffee, amphetamines, who knows? We're going to need it to get through tomorrow. So have a wonderful evening. The Pacers are on, and I am going to go scoot to catch that game. Hope you have a wonderful evening. This is the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC. Take care.